I walked into a coffee shop the other day, and at a table by the window, a girl, probably about 20, was completely absorbed in a thick, dog-eared paperback, underlining passages with pen. Next to her, someone else was meticulously writing in a physical journal. For a second, I just thought it was a quaint retro scene, a little analog island in a digital sea. But then I looked around. It wasn't an island, it was the whole room. Almost no one was mindlessly scrolling. The phones that were out were mostly turned face down on the tables, silent. It didn't feel like nostalgia. It felt intentional, like a quiet, coordinated protest. This is the generation that was born with the smartphone in their hands, the one we were told would be terminally online. So why does it suddenly feel like they're staging a rebellion against the very world they're supposed to inherit? That scene, it truly stuck with me. You know, we hear so much about our always-on culture, how digital tech is just so deeply woven into every single part of our lives. But that coffee shop experience, it really made me wonder if what we're seeing is maybe far more significant than just like a personal choice or some passing trend. Could this digital rebellion, maybe led by the very generation that grew up totally online, represent a massive generational shift? One that carries really profound implications for everything. I mean, everything from our mental well-being and, you know, our social connections right down to the very business models driving the biggest tech companies on the planet. Today, we're taking a pretty fascinating deep dive into how Generation Z isn't just like adapting to the digital world, but actually reshaping our digital future by consciously and often pretty surprisingly pulling back.
It's remarkable that you pick up on that palpable shift. It's definitely far more than just anecdotal. It feels like a foundational change happening.
Yeah.
We're talking about a generation that has, I mean, literally lived with the internet in their pockets since they were toddlers, right? Yet now they're showing these really clear, very deliberate signs of what you can only really describe as a backlash.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about individual preference, you know, it's emerging as this collective response to what they've personally experienced as the pervasive downsides of being hyper-connected all the time.
Okay, let's really unpack this then. It almost sounds like Gen Z is kind of embarking on this quiet war with the very technology that defined their upbringing. They're the ones we pictured, you know, perpetually glued to screens, yet they seem to be right at the forefront of this move towards something more analog, maybe a less digitally saturated life.
Precisely. And this phenomenon of technostress, it's not just a buzzword people throw around. It's a very real, very significant source of distress for Generation Z. Think about their experience.
Yeah.
They've been immersed in this world of constant online presence basically since childhood. And this relentless digital engagement, it directly feeds into increased anxiety, chronic stress, and this sort of pervasive sense of dissatisfaction in their daily lives. It's a constant pressure, isn't it? To be on, to respond instantly, to maintain that perfectly curated online persona. And the numbers are pretty stark. The striking 68% of Gen Z individuals report feeling anxious when they are separated from their smartphones.
Wow, 68%.
Yeah. That isn't just, you know, a minor preference. It signifies a genuine physiological and psychological response. It shows a level of emotional and cognitive dependence that is, frankly, genuinely concerning. This dependence isn't just a habit. It really points to how these devices have become almost like extensions of their identity and their primary tools for social validation. The constant availability creates this pressure to be on, always ready to respond, to perform, leading to this kind of never-ending cycle of digital vigilance that their developing minds are constantly battling.
I can absolutely relate to that feeling, even just from my own observations. There's that constant, almost magnetic pull to check your phone, right? A subconscious urge to see what you might be missing, or just to fill any moment of quiet with some kind of digital noise. It's like this invisible tether just constantly tugging at your attention all day long.
And the tolls, they definitely extend beyond the psychological. They manifest physically, too. We hear a lot about this. Many individuals report frequent eye strain, persistent headaches, that nagging neck pain from hours spent just looking down at devices. And beyond the physical, there's this troubling pattern emerging of withdrawal from traditional social life, leading to feelings of being asocial. Some even talk about an increase in their individuality, which, okay, it sounds positive on the surface, but it often stems from reduced in-person socializing and a greater reliance on self-entertainment through digital means.
Less real-world interaction, basically.
Exactly. And this can lead to what many describe as a widely felt sense of brain laziness.
Brain laziness. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about it. The continuous feed of easily digestible, bite-sized content means their brains aren't really working as hard.
They get accustomed to these rapid dopamine hits and kind of superficial engagement rather than the sustained focus and deep processing needed for, complex tasks or critical thinking. And this often comes alongside a distancing from what are increasingly understood as really core human vital activities.
What sort of activities fall under that?
Things like genuine unmediated conversation, real-world exploration, hands-on creative engagement, even just allowing for quiet contemplation. Simple stuff, really. But these activities are absolutely vital for cognitive development, for emotional regulation, and for fostering deep, meaningful social bonds.
Okay, so given this very clear and, well, present danger of digital burnout, which sounds incredibly pervasive, what are the concrete, proactive steps Gen Z is actually taking? How are they fighting back against this digital overload? Because it's one thing to recognize the problem, right? But it's another thing entirely to actively fight back against it when it's so deeply ingrained in modern life.
Oh, they are definitely fighting back. And it's a conscious, really purposeful movement towards what people call digital detoxes. This involves a deliberate, intentional avoidance of digital devices for a set period. It could be just a few hours, maybe a few days, or sometimes even extending to weeks. And the common goals are pretty clear and compelling, trying to significantly reduce the negative effects they're feeling, aiming to increase their focus and attention spans, and critically, trying to create more space and time for their personal needs, maybe creative pursuits, and just their overall well-being. It's fundamentally about regaining a sense of control over their attention and their lives.
That's incredibly insightful. And it's not just a niche thing, right? Not just a few people doing this. We're talking about a substantial portion of these generations. I've seen some statistics that really drive this home. Something like almost half, 46% of Gen Z and millennials are actively monitoring and limiting that online time. And even more, 49% are setting actual device time limits for themselves, and 42% are regularly tracking their screen usage. That's a huge number of people making really intentional, disciplined choices.
It truly is a widespread phenomena, absolutely. And when you dive into studies that look closely at Gen Z individuals and their actual digital detox experiences, you uncover some really practical insights. For instance, there are what we could maybe categorize as the easy wins. Simple adjustments that many found surprisingly effective and relatively painless to put into practice.
Okay, like what are the easy wins?
Things like making a rule not to watch anything while eating. That allows for more mindful consumption, more presence at mealtimes, or picking up a new hobby, or maybe rediscovering an old one, something that diverts attention to real-world activities, and even something as seemingly minor as just using a wristwatch instead of habitually pulling out a phone for the time.
Ah, the wristwatch comeback. I've seen that.
Exactly. These small changes, they effectively help to break that habitual, almost unconscious cycle of reaching for the phone for every little piece of information or just distraction. They're like tiny acts of rebellion that reclaim little moments throughout the day.
But I can't imagine it's all easy wins, though. What about the hard truths they bump up against? What were the really significant hurdles or those deeply ingrained habits that proved tough to break?
Yeah, the studies definitely reveal some significant challenges, things that truly highlight just how deeply ingrained these digital habits have become, almost like a second nature for many. One of the main hard truths was the profound difficulty people had in consistently turning off mobile application notifications.
Oh, I bet. The constant buzzing and pinging.
Exactly. For many participants, this proved quite difficult, as they put it. It led to this constant, almost irresistible urge to check their phones. They described feeling this persistent need to look at their phone all the time, driven by this anxious curiosity about whether someone had messaged them or if something important had happened online. Interestingly, some even found themselves initially spending more time on certain apps because, with the notifications off, they felt compelled to manually check each one for updates. That fear of missing out, FOMO, really kicked in.
Wow, that's counterintuitive. So turning them off made them check more.
For some, initially, yes, it shows the power of that anxiety. Another really substantial struggle was the simple act of leaving their phone in another room at bedtime.
The classic bedtime scroll.
Precisely. Many participants admitted they really struggled to fall asleep without watching videos. They relied on them as a form of distraction, to quiet their minds. So when they were deprived of these videos, they became bored, restless, and found it exceptionally hard to just drift off naturally. And then waking up and not being able to immediately check their phone for news from the outside world or social updates, that was often described as a bit annoying or even unsettling for some.
Yeah, that really underscores the depth of that psychological dependence, doesn't it? how deeply these devices are integrated into their routines for sleep, for waking up.
Absolutely. It's about regulating their minds, processing information, even just coping with boredom or quiet.
And you mentioned earlier something about a reading divide among these detox efforts. What was that about?
Yes, that was another pretty fascinating finding. While some participants found it really easy, almost effortless, to adopt reading physical books as a fulfilling alternative during their detox.
Like the girl in the coffee shop.
It's exactly like her. But others expressed significant difficulty in successfully making reading a regular habit during their detox. And this highlights a really crucial point. The overall success and ease of a digital detox are heavily impacted by an individual's pre-existing personal hobbies and interests. If reading isn't already a natural inclination, or maybe if their brains aren't accustomed to the sustained focus needed for, linear text after years of scrolling, it often becomes another challenge to overcome rather than a welcoming escape.
So the detox strategy needs to be personal.
Highly personalized, yes. It needs to take into account an individual's existing inclinations and offer alternatives that genuinely resonate with them, not just prescribe read a book.
What really resonates deeply with me from all of this is this underlying desire you're describing, this profound yearning for a slower, more realistic, lower stress level life. They're explicitly valuing face-to-face communication, calling it safer and less mind-polluting than constantly being online. It's a truly remarkable reversal, isn't it, from what many might have predicted for a generation born into the digital age.
And this isn't just about individual detox efforts here and there. It connects directly to a broader, more intentional philosophical framework that's gaining traction. We're observing a really significant and growing adoption of what's often termed digital minimalism.
Digital minimalism, right? Like Cal Newport's work.
Exactly. It's a lifestyle philosophy he champions, arguing that a minimalist approach to technology frees up your mental bandwidth and time. This allows individuals to pursue, deep work, meaningful relationships, rather than being passively dictated by algorithmic feeds and endless notification pings. It's not about abandoning technology entirely, not at all. It's about using it selectively and purposefully, only when it serves a specific high-value function, rather than just mindlessly consuming it as the default activity.
So it's not simply about escaping something negative, like all that anxiety or stress from too much screen time. It sounds more like it's a conscious path towards something more positive, a higher, more fulfilling state of being. Is that what we mean when we talk about eudaimonic well-being in this context? It sounds a bit academic, but is that the idea?
That's precisely the idea. Digital minimalism is fundamentally a path toward eudaimonic well-being. And this concept, it goes far beyond just hedonic well-being, which is simply about feeling good or experiencing pleasure in the moment. Eudaimonic well-being focuses much more on self-actualization, continuous personal growth, and achieving a deeper, more profound sense of purpose and fulfillment in life. It signifies a conscious choice to actively seek out meaningful moments, not just viral ones.
Meaningful moments, not viral ones. I like that.
Yeah. Instead of chasing fleeting likes or superficial trends or that algorithmic validation, this approach prioritizes activities, interactions, engagements that genuinely contribute to a richer, more purpose-driven, authentic life. It's really about intentionally designing your digital life in a way that genuinely serves your deepest values, rather than just allowing algorithms and the attention economy to dictate where your attention goes and what you do.
And I find it quite refreshing, actually, that even this concept, this pursuit of greater well-being through digital minimalism, it isn't without its own critiques and complexities. I've come across some of these myself, like the underlying assumption that everyone just has ample leisure time to pick up extensive new hobbies like, welding, as Newport sometimes suggests.
Right, or go on long, reflective nature walks.
Exactly, or what sometimes feels like kind of contradictory advice on how to actually navigate social media effectively. One minute it's avoid it, the next it's use it intentionally. It can feel a bit like walking a tightrope, can it?
It absolutely can feel that way. And the critiques rightly point out that for many people, especially those juggling multiple jobs or family responsibilities or demanding careers, finding those large pockets of leisure time to immerse themselves in extensive new hobbies isn't always realistic. And yes, there's definitely a perceived contradiction sometimes in the advice. One moment, the message might be, steer clear of all social media for your mental health. And the next, it's, okay, use social media in a smart, intentional way to connect with like-minded communities, which I think highlights that digital minimalism is really more of a flexible framework, a guiding philosophy, rather than some rigid set of prescriptive rules you have to follow perfectly. Its practical application has to vary greatly depending on an individual's unique circumstances, their specific goals, and maybe their capacity for change at that moment. It's definitely a nuanced approach to an incredibly complex, multifaceted problem.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this quiet rebellion by Gen Z, this intentional pullback from constant digital engagement, it isn't happening in a vacuum, is it? It's sending these profound shockwaves right through the heart of the tech industry itself, particularly impacting what we call the attention economy, the traditional media and entertainment market, which is this colossal global industry valued at, what is it, a staggering $104 billion. That's being fundamentally disrupted by these very shifts in consumer behavior and preference.
Indeed, we are absolutely witnessing a fundamental paradigm shift in how value is created, distributed, and consumed in the digital sphere. Historically, large production houses and traditional media conglomerates completely dominated content creation. They invested heavily in high-budget productions. But that established model is visibly cracking under the pressure now, and this disruption is driven by a confluence of really powerful factors, primarily significantly lower costs for content creation. I mean, virtually anyone with a decent smartphone can now produce and distribute pretty high-quality material directly to a global audience. But crucially, there's also this new, undeniable consumer preference. Users, especially Gen Z, are increasingly gravitating towards authentic, raw, maybe unpolished, user-generated content over the highly polished, meticulously produced stuff that once held sway.
Right, like you see with TikTok versus something older.
Exactly. Think about the stark contrast between the epic, very public failure of Quibi. Remember Quibi?
Oh, yeah.
Right. A platform built on big-budget, short-form shows with established Hollywood stars. Compare that to the meteoric rise of TikTok stars and independent YouTubers who often create incredibly compelling content with minimal production budgets. It's a clear, undeniable signal of a profound shift in what audiences truly value now.
So if individual creators are indeed becoming the new kings and queens of content, what's the core problem with the established traditional platforms like YouTube, Instagram, TikTok? They certainly have massive reach, billions of users, but it sounds like there's a significant catch for the creators themselves.
The crucial catch is that despite their truly enormous global reach, these traditional discovery platforms offer remarkably limited monetization opportunities for the vast majority of creators. That's the rub. Their business models were predominantly built on advertising revenue, right?
Yeah.
And while they connect creators with immense audiences, the revenue share often just doesn't translate into a sustainable living wage for most people making content. They thrive by aggregating attention and selling it to advertisers, not necessarily by empowering individual creators to build their own independent, sustainable businesses.
Can you break down some of the specifics of that? Just how limited are we talking in terms of actual earnings for creators on these big platforms?
Let's use YouTube as a primary example, since it's often seen as kind of a gold standard for creator monetization historically. Their model typically shares about 45% of ad revenue with creators.
Okay, 45%. Doesn't sound terrible initially.
Well, here's the thing. It's critically contingent on viewers actually not skipping the ads. If an ad is skipped, which happens all the time. Zero revenue is generated from that particular view. Plus, you have the widespread use of ad blocking technology, which further erodes potential earnings. It makes an already challenging landscape even tougher. And the shocking reality, backed by research, is that an astounding 97.5% of YouTubers don't make enough income from YouTube ads alone to reach the U.S. poverty line.
Wow, 97.5%. That's almost everybody.
Almost everybody. Currently, that poverty line is $12,880 annually. So nearly every single content creator on YouTube struggles to make a living solely from that ad revenue stream. And it's not just YouTube. The sheer competition on these platforms is just immense, and it's ever growing. Instagram's user base has doubled in recent years. The number of active YouTube channels grew by 23%. This hypersaturation makes it incredibly difficult for what we call amateur creators, who, by the way, make up over 93% of the estimated 50 million creators worldwide, to attract enough consistent eyeballs to generate significant life-sustaining ad revenue. And while brand deals are a highly lucrative revenue source for some, they have historically been concentrated among a very small elite group of top celebrity influencers, leaving minimal opportunities for this burgeoning creator middle class to really gain a foothold.
Okay, so this is where the story truly shifts and becomes incredibly compelling. Because if the old ad-supported model is cracking under this pressure from Gen Z habits and creator realities, a powerful new one must be rapidly emerging. So tell us about this exciting shift where value seems to be directly migrating away from these massive general-purpose discovery platforms towards much more focused, dedicated monetization platforms. This sounds like it's fundamentally changing the game for content creators.
It is absolutely a new wave, you're right, and it's all about empowering individual creators to become sustainable independent businesses. These emerging monetization platforms are specifically engineered to help creators convert their engaged communities into direct, reliable revenue streams. They're effectively fostering what we now often refer to as a creator middle class.
A creator middle class, I like that term.
Yeah, it would consist of creators who might not have millions and millions of followers, but they have a dedicated, loyal audience who are willing to directly support their work. And that enables them to actually earn a sustainable living wage doing what they love.
And how do these newer platforms manage to offer so much better economics to creators? What's fundamentally different about their approach compared to the traditional ad-supported giants we were just talking about?
Well, the primary and most significant difference really lies in their revenue-sharing models. They're designed to be far more economically rewarding and much more transparent for creators. For instance, platforms like OnlyFans. They give a remarkably generous 80% of earnings directly to their creators. That makes it highly attractive financially. Patreon, another leader in this space, takes a much smaller cut, typically only between 5 to 12%, so creators retain the vast majority of their earnings.
Big difference from YouTube's 45% before ad skips.
Huge difference. And then there's Kajabi, which offers this all-in-one platform specifically for knowledge entrepreneurs, people selling courses or coaching. Kajabi famously pays creators from the very first course they sell, meaning income generation is immediate. This is a stark contrast to the traditional model where creators might need millions of views of complex ad negotiations just to earn a meager, often unpredictable income. Another key advantage these platforms offer is faster monetization. Creators don't need to amass a massive, already established following to begin earning. They can start generating income with a much smaller, but highly engaged and dedicated audience, often directly from day one of their content creation journey. This dramatically lowers the barrier to entry and provides a much more immediate, tangible incentive for aspiring creators.
That makes sense. Less waiting, more earning potential early on.
Exactly. And finally, there's significantly less competition for eyeballs and attention on these dedicated platforms compared to the giants. Consider the sheer scale. YouTube had approximately 38 million channels back in 2020. It's an incredibly crowded, noisy marketplace. In contrast, OnlyFans hosts around 1.5 million creators. Still a lot, but a different scale. On platforms like Twitch, over 90% of streamers still have fewer than 5 concurrent viewers at any given time. That vividly illustrates how incredibly difficult it is to truly stand out and build a monetizable audience on those vast, general-purpose discovery platforms. So monetization platforms offer a more focused, less saturated environment where niche content can truly thrive and find its dedicated, paying audience.
That's a staggering difference in scale and potential. It really does create a viable pathway for countless creators who might never break through on the massive platforms. Okay, give us some vivid, colorful examples of these emerging monetization powerhouses that are making a real impact in changing the game.
Absolutely. Let's start with Cameo. You probably know this one. This unique platform lets you book personalized video shoutouts directly from celebrities, athletes, public figures. It now boasts nearly 50,000 personalities on its roster and has facilitated over 4 million of these moments worldwide: birthday greetings, motivational messages, you name it. Celebrities set their own prices. Could be $15 for an emerging talent, could be $3,000 for a top-tier star. Cameo takes a 25% cut. And they're innovating too. They're exploring NFTs with something called Cameo Pass for exclusive access, and they acquired a merchandising platform, Represent, to help talent sell merch directly.
Smart moves, expanding beyond just the videos.
Definitely. Then there's Kajabi. It's an industry-leading all-in-one platform specifically designed for what they call knowledge entrepreneurs. It makes it remarkably simple for experts to create, market, sell online courses, coaching programs, membership sites, other digital products. Kajabi has been incredibly successful. They've enabled their creators to generate over $1 billion in course sales. That just shows the immense potential in online education and knowledge sharing. They recently got over $550 million in funding, valuing the company at over $2 billion. So a major player.
$1 billion in course sales.
Yeah. Then OnlyFans. While it's widely recognized for its adult content, it's actually a groundbreaking leader in direct creator payouts. It's distributed over $5 billion directly to its 1.5 million creators since it started. Creators set their own subscription prices. OnlyFans keeps 20%, gives a generous 80% to the creators. They're actively working now to diversify their content beyond adult material. They even launched an OFTV app for non-adult stuff, trying to attract more mainstream creators and, institutional investors.
Interesting pivot there.
Then Patreon. It powers membership businesses for an incredibly diverse range of creators, podcasters like us, musicians, visual artists, writers. It gives them tools to acquire, manage, grow a base of paying subscribers. As of early 2022, about 250,000 creators were supported by over 8 million dedicated subscribers. They'd collectively earned over $3.5 billion through the platform. Patreon's growth really got boosted during the pandemic as more people sought direct connections and wanted to support independent creators. It shows the power of that recurring fan support model.
Yeah, that direct support feels different.
It does. Substack is another big one, the popular newsletter platform. Takes a modest 10% fee from creators' subscription revenues. It's attracting both established, seasoned journalists, some famously earning more from their Substack than previous salary jobs, and also burgeoning amateur writers. It grew rapidly to over 1 million paid subscribers by late 2021, powerfully demonstrating the viability of direct reader support for independent journalism, commentary, creative writing.
Taking on traditional media in a way.
In a big way. Let's see. Tango May. A dynamic live streaming platform, huge user base, over 400 million users worldwide. It monetizes primarily through micropayments or gifts from viewers. People send virtual currency to creators during live sessions. It's a significant departure from the ad model. It's consistently ranked among the top social grossing apps, showing the power of direct, real-time fan engagement and those microtransactions.
Little bits adding up.
Exactly. Vimeo, long known as the ad-free, high-quality video hosting alternative, often favored by pros. It now offers Vimeo OTT, which lets creators and businesses launch their own branded streaming channels, complete with custom apps. Over 6,500 channels are already active yoga instructors, filmmakers, even opera houses. Shows its versatility for direct-to-consumer video.
So you can build your own Netflix, essentially.
Kind of, yeah, on a smaller scale.
Yeah,
Maybe a surprising one. The Playboy Group, PLBY.
Really?
Yeah, they strategically launched Centerfold, a curated, creator-led platform focused on creative freedom, sex positivity. Operates on a similar model. 20% cut of subscriptions, leverages creators for low content production costs compared to traditional media. They're also into NFTs with Rabbitars for exclusive community access. It represents this bold pivot from a traditional media licensing business to a direct-to-consumer digital services model, really engaging with these creator economy trends.
Wow, that's a diverse list. It really underscores the depth and breadth of this shift, doesn't it? Actively rewiring the whole digital landscape.
Now, it's really crucial to understand that the traditional discovery platforms we talked about earlier, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, they aren't just sitting by idly, watching their top talent migrate to these new monetization models. They're acutely aware of this significant value migration, and they're making substantial strategic moves to try and stay relevant, and most importantly, to retain their top talent and attract new creators. They fully recognize that for them, it's basically an adapt or die situation in this evolving digital ecosystem.
That makes perfect sense. It's almost like they're trying to either catch up or maybe build their own integrated versions of these monetization features right inside their existing ecosystems. What are some of the concrete steps these giants are actually taking to counteract this shift?
We've seen several pretty prominent and significant examples already. TikTok, which, as you know, holds the record as the fastest platform to reach 1 billion users globally. They announced a massive creator fund, initially over $1 billion allocated just for the US, with ambitious plans to more than double that globally. The core goal there is to directly pay creators for posting content, aiming to offer them a more stable and predictable income stream than just relying solely on ad revenue, which can be so inconsistent.
Trying to keep them happy, keep them posting.
Essentially, yes. Twitter also launched its super follow option. This allows select creators to charge a monthly subscription fee for exclusive, behind-the-scenes, or extra content that's only accessible to their most dedicated fans. That's a direct play for subscription-based revenue, aiming to capture that value of direct fan support right within their platform.
Integrating the Patreon model.
Exactly. And across the board, the biggest players like Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are rapidly introducing just an increasing array of monetization features. This includes various forms of direct subscriptions for creators, enhanced commerce tools so people can sell products directly within the platforms, and integrated live shopping experiences where creators can promote and sell items in real time during a stream. They're basically trying to evolve into these all-in-one solutions that seamlessly combine content discovery with robust direct monetization capabilities. The hope is to keep creators and their valuable audiences within their own walled gardens.
A battle for the creators, then.
Oh, a huge battle. And what's particularly fascinating here is the sheer velocity with which the investment world is responding to all these shifts. It's not just a passing trend. It signifies this massive reallocation of capital towards these new models. Funding for creator economy companies just skyrocketed. It was over $1.7 billion last year alone, and projections indicate this number is expected to nearly double, potentially reaching $3.3 billion by 2025. Investors are quite literally following the money, and that money is clearly flowing into these innovative new business models.
And it sounds like this investment isn't just broadly distributed across the entire digital economy, is it? It seems very specifically targeted towards these newer, more creator-centric models.
You're absolutely right. The sharpest growth in investment is specifically directed towards these monetization platforms and the underlying creator tools that empower them. This sector is rapidly producing what we call unicorns, those privately held companies valued at over $1 billion. For example, Kajabi, we mentioned, now valued at over $2 billion. Patreon, over $4 billion. OnlyFans successfully achieved over $1 million in valuation. This tells you, in no uncertain terms, that the market sees immense long-term potential and profitability in business models that empower direct creator-to-fan monetization. It's a significant move away from solely relying on that traditional, often volatile, advertising model. It's a clear and powerful signal of where the future of digital content engagement and economic value is headed.
Okay, let's zoom out now and connect all of this to the even broader picture. We've thoroughly discussed Gen Z's digital detox, this quiet rebellion, and how it's sending these shockwaves through the tech industry and creating these new platforms. But what are the long-term, profound societal implications of Gen Z's growing digital minimalism? How is this significant cultural shift reshaping not just business and tech, but also our very understanding of things like social status, individual well-being, and maybe even the nature of human interaction in what's increasingly looking like an analog-preferred world, at least for some things?
Yeah, this raises a truly important question about the fundamental nature of the economy we're collectively moving towards. It's being conceptualized by some as the connection economy.
The connection economy.
Yeah, a distinct evolution from the prior attention economy that was all about just grabbing eyeballs. The emphasis now is no longer just on capturing fleeting attention or achieving some massive viral spread. It's shifting towards actively fostering genuine, meaningful connections and cultivating authentic relationships. So the next wave of brand engagement, for example, won't solely be about creating highly viral content that spreads rapidly. It will be fundamentally about cultivating meaningful moments that resonate deeply and genuinely with consumers. And this deeply echoes Gen Z's increasing preference for authenticity, transparency, and real-life experiences over those perfectly curated digital facades we talked about. This shift also impacts how we view social status, potentially. Maybe it becomes less about having the most followers online and more about the depth of your real-world connections and your personal impact.
That's a really powerful and insightful distinction. Meaningful moments, not just viral ones. I really like that framing. Can you give us a concrete example of how a brand is actually putting this into practice? How do they authentically create that deeper, more personal connection in a world that still feels largely obsessed with virality?
A fantastic real-world example comes from the fragrance brand Le Monde Gourmand. Instead of just investing heavily in generic digital ads or traditional influencer campaigns focused purely on reach, they partnered directly with niche, highly engaged communities to host actual, real-life, physical events.
Okay, old school meetups.
Kind of. This direct in-person engagement attracted an impressive 1,100 attendees to their events. But crucially, it also generated an astounding amount of organic buzz, more than 600,000 impressions online, and over 50 pieces of genuinely organic, user-generated content. People sharing their experiences because they actually enjoyed it. This powerfully showcases the immense, often underestimated power of physical connection and authentic experiences to drive profound brand engagement and product discovery, maybe far beyond what a purely digital campaign might ever achieve. It's a compelling case study in building genuine community and fostering loyalty, rather than just chasing those ephemeral clicks or algorithmic trends.
Building real community, not just follower counts.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the broader picture of Gen Z's product discovery habits, we uncover an even more fascinating nuance. While a significant chunk, 61% of Gen Z consumers, still say they prefer social media over traditional retail for product discovery, which sounds very digital first, right? Their actual influences are surprisingly more analog and authentic in nature. They're considerably more swayed by editorial-style content, think reviews, curated lists, that sort of thing, which accounts for 30% of their influence. And direct peer recommendations account for another 26%.
So, friends and trusted sources.
Exactly. This is a notable contrast to the influence of traditional, highly polished influencers, which only accounts for about 20%. This clearly signals a strong underlying desire for genuine, relatable connections and trusted, unvarnished sources, rather than just commercially driven endorsements. They prioritize hearing from people they genuinely trust or consuming content that feels like a real curated recommendation, not just another cleverly disguised ad. This preference for authenticity is really reshaping not just product discovery, but broader forms of social influence.
That's a huge insight. It's not just where they discover products, but who influences them. And that's undeniably shifting back towards something far more personal and authentic. Now let's pivot slightly and talk about another major societal shift that has profound and lasting implications for this generation: the enduring legacy of remote work in the post-COVID era. It seems like a classic double-edged sword for Gen Z, doesn't it?
It absolutely is a double-edged sword. It presents both really significant advantages and some pretty troubling drawbacks, especially for this cohort. On one hand, remote work holds immense and immediate appeal for recent college graduates, and for very understandable reasons. It offers immediate financial breathing room in a world burdened by soaring student debt and increasingly prohibitive rent costs. That's huge.
Yeah, the cost of living is a major factor.
A massive factor. They can significantly reduce or eliminate commuting costs, save on vehicle wear and tear, drastically cut down on daily expenses like lunches and coffee, and avoid the considerable expense of maintaining a full corporate-appropriate wardrobe. These direct financial benefits align perfectly with Gen Z's stated priorities of desiring greater freedom, autonomy, and a better overall work-life balance. Remote work gives them flexibility maybe to pursue side hustles, integrate midday exercise, even work while traveling sometimes. From that perspective, it's incredibly attractive and empowering.
But then you hit on what I perceive as the profound, troubling truth of this arrangement. This immediate financial freedom often seems to come at a very high, though maybe less tangible cost, the cost of genuine community. Gen Z, already described by some as being starved for connection after years of online classes, virtual graduations, socially distanced everything, they now enter a professional workforce that, for many, can be even further isolating. They potentially miss out on all those organic, spontaneous interactions, the informal mentorship opportunities, the unspoken social cues that really define traditional in-person workplaces.
And that's precisely why real-life, in-person interaction is so critically important, especially for those just starting out in their careers. Remote settings inherently limit those organic opportunities for mentorship. They significantly reduce professional visibility just being seen around the office. And they restrict the spontaneous collaboration that is just essential for young professionals to truly thrive, to learn the unwritten rules of corporate culture, and to make lasting, meaningful impressions on colleagues and higher-ups.
It's harder to stand out, harder to network organically.
Much harder. It can be significantly harder to advance your career, build a robust professional network, and develop crucial leadership skills when you're not physically present in that shared space. While virtual interactions certainly exist and they are valuable, they simply cannot fully replace the richness, the nuance, the depth of face-to-face conversations, or those accidental encounters in the hallway that spark new ideas, or just the shared sense of camaraderie that builds a strong team. The widespread popularity of remote work is, some argue, undeniably contributing to the broader U.S. loneliness epidemic. The troubling truth, as you put it, might be that our collective financial need to save money is officially trumping our need for community, even though community is arguably as valuable, if not more valuable, than financial stability for overall well-being, mental health, and long-term career growth. It's a trade-off with significant, sometimes unseen, long-term costs.
So, if this is the growing reality, this tension between digital overload, the desire for connection, the economics of remote work, what absolutely needs to be done, how do we ensure we're collectively crafting a healthier, more sustainable, and psychologically sound digital future for everyone? It feels like we need interventions on multiple interlocking levels, doesn't it? From corporate responsibility and regulatory policy right through to educational reforms and individual empowerment strategies.
You're hitting on the core, multifaceted challenge there. There's definitely a growing and urgent recognition that digital burnout and its profound impact on mental health must be addressed not just at an individual level, but at a systemic one. Things like digital mental health interventions, or DMHIs, are showing significant promise for improving overall well-being.
What are DMHIs exactly?
They can range quite widely, from apps that help you monitor screen time and suggest taking breaks, to AI-powered chatbots that offer techniques from cognitive behavioral therapy, or even virtual reality programs designed for mindfulness and stress reduction. Researchers are really emphasizing that for these digital solutions to be truly effective and widely adopted, they have to prioritize flexibility, cultural sensitivity, and ease of use. They need to be accessible, relevant, and engaging to diverse populations. It's clearly not a one-size-fits-all problem, so it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all solution.
And it sounds like some significant entities are already taking proactive and quite forward-thinking steps in this direction. I know the European Union, for instance, has been very intentional in its approach to digital life.
Absolutely. The European Union has adopted a really multifaceted and comprehensive approach to fostering what they explicitly term digital well-being for all its citizens. One crucial initiative is the development of cutting-edge regulations like the Cyber Resilience Act. This is actually groundbreaking legislation, the first EU law to impose robust cybersecurity standards directly on a wide range of internet-connected products.
Well, like what kind of products?
Everything from smart TVs and wearable watches to home cameras and even industrial automation systems. The ambitious aim is to significantly enhance the safety and security of these products, effectively safeguarding both businesses and individual consumers from mounting cyber threats. But beyond just the technical standards, the EU is also deeply focused on education. In 2022, the Council of the European Union published these pivotal Council conclusions on supporting well-being in digital education. This document highlights the critical and urgent importance of systematically integrating digital health and well-being directly into educational contexts and curricula. It directly acknowledges the profound, often overlooked impact of digital technologies on both learners and educators' lives, stressing the need for proactive education from a young age.
So teaching kids how to navigate this healthfully.
Precisely. They're advocating for a much more comprehensive and holistic approach to digital citizenship. And this extends far beyond merely possessing technical digital skills. It encompasses vital components like emotional intelligence, fostering robust social support networks, and building strong mental health awareness, specifically in the digital realm. In fact, a powerful coalition of organizations, including major tech players like Meta, alongside the European Youth Forum, research institutions, civil society groups, has even proposed 5 key pillars for comprehensive digital citizenship. These pillars include things like digital foundations, well-being, engagement, empowerment, and opportunities. And they strongly recommend integrating this kind of holistic digital citizenship education directly into school curricula. The idea is ensuring that young people are thoroughly equipped with these essential skills, resilience, and awareness before they fully immerse themselves and integrate into the complexities of the adult digital world.
So it really sounds like it's about shifting some of the burden away from just the individual user having to figure it all out, and instead placing significant responsibility onto the ecosystem itself, which naturally means corporate responsibility must play a massive, undeniable role too, right?
Absolutely. Corporate responsibility is paramount in this evolving landscape. Tech companies, in particular, must fundamentally pivot their mindset. They need to move from a purely transactional, sell things and capture attention at all costs approach to one that is deeply focused on nurturing long-term customer relationships and fostering genuine loyalty based on trust and value. This involves adopting entirely new subscription and consumption models that prioritize ongoing engagement, sustained value, and a healthier user experience, rather than just one-time sales or maximizing ad impressions above all else. It's a crucial shift from focusing solely on quantity of engagement to prioritizing the quality of the customer experience and its impact on well-being. And crucially, companies need to be transparent and proactive with their investors about these strategic shifts, even if these pivots might temporarily impact short-term revenue figures. This transparency and commitment are absolutely essential for the long-term health, sustainability, and trustworthiness of these companies in this rapidly evolving digital landscape. It's really about building genuine trust and demonstrating a profound commitment to a healthier, more balanced digital future for everyone, not just focusing solely on their immediate bottom line.
And there you have it. These profound, deeply interconnected shifts currently underway across our digital world, largely driven, it seems, by Generation Z's quiet yet determined digital rebellion. This really isn't just a fleeting trend or some passing fad, is it? It feels like it represents a fundamental reevaluation of our collective relationship with technology. It's impacting everything from how we do business and how companies structure their entire revenue models, right down to how we truly connect as humans and the very fabric of our societal well-being. The future of digital engagement is actively being written right now as we speak. And perhaps surprisingly, it looks a lot more intentional, maybe a lot more personal, and in many ways, perhaps a little less digital than many of us ever anticipated.